This is some moldy steak. We're gonna eat this and hopefully not die. Dry aging is the process of letting a piece of meat sit in the fridge with controlled humidity for at least a month to allow it to get more tender and concentrate its flavor, resulting in some incredibly mouth-watering steaks. This isn't dry aging. The problem with dry aging is that it's a huge waste. It takes at least a month to do, and at the end you have to cut out half your meat because it ends up being crusty and dry. But with this process, I'm trying to get the same results in a day and a half using mold. Aspergillus flavus is a mold that grows from soybeans and grains that happens to create something called aflatoxin that will make your skin turn yellow, tremor uncontrollably, and have you vomiting all over yourself. It kills your liver. You know, the thing that keeps you alive after binge drinking copious amounts of alcohol. So we're gonna use its cousin, Aspergillus oryzae, which has a gene that shuts off the poison aflatoxin. This mold is probably in lots of food that you've eaten before because it makes things like miso, soy sauce, and sake. Its other name is Koji, which is known to make things insanely flavorful. Koji has enzymes called proteases, which breaks down proteins into amino acids like the ones you get from
MSG king of flavor.
That doesn't mean you still can't get insanely sick from this. We're trying to grow this mold directly on a piece of meat, which means we're doing it in a warm, humid environment. According to the USDA, leaving food out for too long is bad news. It becomes a breeding ground for bacteria that will make you vomit your brains out. The danger zone is between 40 to 140 Fahrenheit. So it's not recommended that we keep our food out for more than 2 hours. And if it's above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 1 hour. We're gonna be keeping these steaks at 90 for a day and a half. I'm questioning my life decisions too. We're gonna need to make something that could keep the temperature at 90 degrees Fahrenheit and 90% humidity. We need a big container to insulate all the heat, so we're gonna use a cooler. And we're using plastic containers to elevate a tray with a rack on it so we can put our steaks and enough air is circulated around it. We're filling with water to make the humid environment, and finally, in order to keep a consistent temperature, we're using a sous vide. Time to make some moldy meat. So first we're gonna weigh out the steak and rub on 1.75% of its weight with sugar and salt. Yeah, sugar on steak is weird, but it's so the Koji has instant food while it's growing. Then we're gonna let it sit until the steak starts to release some liquid, about 20 minutes. Your nose and mouth, nice warm, dark place for mold to grow into. So, we're gonna mix the mold spores with some cornstarch so it can evenly cover the meat. This is supposed to feed the Koji and make it easier for it to stick. Then we put everything in the incubation chamber for 36 hours. All right, it's been 36 hours and I'm a little nervous. The meat could be really rancid or it could, turn out moldy, which is what we want. Whoa. Holy crap, what? This is insane. It doesn't smell bad at all. It smells like freshly washed laundry. No way. This is the craziest thing I've ever done. I'm still shook that I made this. You can see all the fuzz on the steaks or the little droplets of water that was collecting inside of the incubator. They're all beaded up because they're not being absorbed into the steaks. I really can't believe I let it sit out for 36 hours. I'm a little scared to cook this, but it looks like it's not gonna make me sick. Why did this work? So the Koji actually created a protective layer against the bacteria that can get us sick. Kind of like how the first antibiotic discovered in 1928, penicillin, came from a mold called penicillium. Is this gonna taste like cornstarch and sugar? Because we used a lot of cornstarch. Now we're just gonna have to find out and cook it. All right, time to try it. I did overcook the control steak a little bit. Oops. Let's just give it a try. Control. Well, that's a steak. What's interesting about the Koji one is the smell is no longer there, but it gives like a crispy crust on the outside. Like you kind of fried it. That's maybe because it's covered in cornstarch. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Let's just try it. But this one looks pretty good. Pretty good cross section though. Hopefully I don't get too sick. What the heck did I just eat? This has so much flavor. It's like super umami. Like like somebody sprinkled MSG on top of this piece of meat. Whoa, let me just take off this crust. It's kind of like flopping around and not really part of the meat. I think it's part of the cornstarch, but if I take it off, is this still gonna taste like that though? Whoa, even the crust tastes like a piece of meat, even though it's like just cornstarch and a little bit of mold powder. Huh. And it's like a crispy chip. That's really cool. Wow, even without the crust. Okay, and when you eat the meat, it's like beef plus. The moldy steaks had an interesting smell to it. It had a kind of funky smell, kind of like cheese. Whereas this, the control steak tastes like beef. Yeah, that's normal. The thing is, like, when you Koji age a steak, it decreases the beef flavor a little bit because then you get like a cheesy flavor that you smell a lot more. So it's a little different. Maybe it's like a really old dry aged steak, like a 90-day dry aged steak where the beefy flavor, it tastes more like funky. But that's crazy that you can do that in like 36 hours. Holy crap. This whole technique went against everything I knew about cooking. I was freaking out the entire time. Every step of the way, I was doubting myself. And you know what? Sometimes that's exactly what we need. Maybe that discomfort might actually be a good sign that you're onto something interesting. Have a good one.